Go where your best prayers take you and clench the fists of your spirit and take it easy. Breathe deeply of the glad air and let one day at a time know that you are precious and learn to trust. Amen. Well, good morning and welcome to everyone, especially on this Veterans Weekend. We salute, we really do. All of you who have served our country in the military and served in other ways. It's a great privilege to say that and an honor for all of us to salute you all. You know, it's been a busy couple of weeks at St. John's. We've had quite a few burials, lifting up those people who died and celebrating their lives, Betty and George, and then more recently Lynn Christenberry and Ed Wilson. So thanks for all the people involved, because I think it's about half the congregation that helps us do all of our worship. We all work doing this together. And today we've had a great drive over next door in the Great Hall. Olivier's here from the Greater School Partnership. So thanks for all y'all's donations, because packed 53 boxes, I think, of food and goodies for Thanksgiving for 53 families at Green Magnet. So that's a neat thing, just a nice gesture of generosity. So thanks for all of that. I want to tell you a funny story. A couple of weeks ago, I was on Gay Street, Gay Street, real busy. It's middle of the day. I'd run an errand. I was headed back to the cathedral. I was walking along. It was a pretty day. Sun was out. And somebody ran into me, almost knocked me in the street. Literally bumped me so hard that I had took a couple of steps. And I stopped and said, what the heck? And by the time I got my footing and turned around, this young guy was going off walking away from me. And you know what he's doing? He was doing this. Never even saw me. And so I watched, and guess what? He walked into a telephone pole. Not kidding. That's a true story. And I thought, I did a Tom Razzie. I said, yes, it's about time. I've always wanted to do a Tom Razzie. It was great. I felt bad. Well, a little bit bad. Not too bad. Last week, believe it or not, downtown again, I'm walking down the street. My phone rings. It's back pocket. Pull it out. Start getting involved with trying to figure out the sun's out. I'm glaring. I'm looking at it. And guess what I did? I walked into a telephone pole. The Lord giveth and he taketh away. Yep, that's true too. Oh well. You know, these devices are interesting, aren't they? And they're a bit, to say the least, distracting. Did you hear the report this week? It came out a couple of days ago. These little things, adults, the average adult in America checks it 80 times a day. 80, which means our children check it 280. It's not a joke. They live on it. Tom and I were talking about it. It's real. I mean, this is a real thing for us. And as much as it's wonderful, gosh, last night we were, my baby Andy's at her grandmother's, and you know what? I'm seeing my grandbaby and she's laughing and talking to me. It's great. But you know, it is awesomely distracting too, isn't it? I mean, it's just with us constantly. And most of us cannot not pick them up. We're going to answer the thing. And we do. We're slammed with them. And I don't know what to do other than to admit it is awesomely distracting. Tommy Seiler was kind enough to ask the clergy to come and join a seminar he was doing for his clients and their company. They brought in an expert, someone who is doing this nationally, and goes around and does talks on Alzheimer's and dementia. It's very powerful and got us to think about more and more. The Fulmers are very involved. We're going to do a lot more about this in the future. It affects so many of us. What was interesting, the fellow doing the seminar was doing actual brain research and using research by the Center for Brain Health out of Dallas, Texas. They're affiliated with a medical school. And so they were researching what is it for humans to have these and to do multitasking all the time. And I know Rhonda Riggs has talked about it in her practice with young parents and kids with devices. So this is a real thing and a real study that's going on. What's interesting, they have done and have conclusive evidence, a conclusive link between the use of our technology and brain health, as you can imagine. These aren't benign. They're real to us, and they're wonderful, but they have another side, the way we tax ourselves. One of the points is you can't multitask. We think we do. You know what your brain does? It goes back and forth, back and forth. And the more tasks you're doing, then it's going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You see, we're making our brains work way harder to do the simple things because we're doing more than one. You remember the old advice that your parents gave you, do one thing at a time? That's what they do now. They have leadership groups they bring in of highly functioning adults who are successful, and they teach them to do one thing at a time again. Think about that. And it's about brain health, future brain health. It's a real thing. You know, I just got back to that thing again. I don't know what to do about it is. You know, we know that doing one thing at a time gets us vibrant, younger. There's no doubt about that. But we're going to multitask. We have these things. We are a distracted society, and it takes a toll. The evidence is there. So why am I telling you this? Because that's exactly what Jesus is talking about this morning, and it comes to us from 2,000 years ago. No joke. That's what the story's about. You heard that great familiar parable of the bridesmaids. What a great story. And it is. It's a story. It's just fun. It's got lots of dynamics. And we've done Bible studies all week with it. People see a lot of different things in us, in that story. But go through the story a bit. Do you understand what's going on? The bridesmaids have a ceremony. It's part of their culture. That when the groom comes to town for the wedding, they go out to greet him. So it's a simple story. Actually, they're getting their lamps ready because if it's after dark, they need to light his way ceremoniously to bring him to the occasion. Am I in or out? Don't know what's happening. There it is, back on. So they're ceremoniously bringing him to the occasion. And you see, it's not a big thing, but also, travel is not easy. So it's what happens. People are late. So the groom is late. It's about that simple. Well, some of the bridesmaids are prepared, aren't they? You know why and how? They have extra oil because why? They're going to have to burn their lamps longer. And some aren't. It's not any more difficult than that. That's the story. And so, at about 10 p.m., when the ones who run out of oil go out to look for oil, as someone said this morning, why would they think anything is open? There's not a Walmart. They can't get in it. It's that. So it's like a duh, The story, though, is tough because it says, because of that behavior, they miss out on the festivities. They miss it. They are too late. I bet you have noticed in a small segue that Christmas started about 2 weeks ago. Did you notice that? I mean, no joke. And this weekend, if you didn't notice, since I gorged myself on football between other events, every commercial is cranked full speed, full force Christmas. So I think we can apply this story and say what Jesus is saying, if you don't get your Christmas done before 10 p.m. the night before, you're out of luck. You're not going to get your gifts. Actually, that's not what it's about. Because we're here at the church in Advent, purposefully. We're 2 weeks early. We purposefully are doing this. Because, we know how we see this story. This story is about the groom, about Jesus. The reminder to be on the alert is ever with us. To be prepared, to be ready, to be willing when the Christ comes. And that's what we're going to spend these long weeks getting ready for. What? Fun. And it really should be fun. And then the personal message is for you, to be alert, to be ready when God and Jesus come into your life. But you know what? You already know that. There is not much new information for almost every person here about what I just said. Be alert, be ready. We say it all the time. You know that. I wonder, though, if this story actually holds something really more. And I think it does. This past week in Bible study, one of your fellow students, Rick Boyd, is the one who really turned that key for me. I was kind of getting at it, but he just said it. We've been going around for like 45 minutes. Rick hadn't said anything. He finally came out with, he said, you know what? I think I know who that groom is in this story. I said, well, who do you think it is? He said, it's life. We're being called to be prepared for life. I thank him for it. Because, see, that's exactly what this story is about. Yes, it's about being ready for Jesus and God. I get that. And that's kind of low-hanging fruit. We can grab that easily. What's a little more tricky, what's more challenging for every person here, is to grab a hold of life, to be engaged with life as it comes to us. See, it's inviting us to be alert and awake for life and for living, to be watching, to be open to life itself. That is a bigger thing. Life, we know, can be hard, can it? There's no doubt about it. And that's part of the reason we get distracted, because we get bogged down. It can be tedious and dull and boring. Period. It is. There is a lot of life that's that way. And we do things to distract us because it is. We lose that edge of expectancy. Maybe you don't. But if you don't, I don't think you're telling the truth. I think we all do. We lose that edge of expectancy about what might be coming. You know, it is kind of hard work sometimes to be alert and alive to what might be coming. But that seems to be the task. To wake up to life. And all of us need to be reminded. At some point, every person here needs a reminder. You know, I love all things Naomi Remen, so I tell you lots of her stories. She is the clinical professor of family and community medicine at the University of California in San Francisco. And she is quite something because she is well known for her work with cancer patients. And she tells a lot of their stories, and I've told you a lot of her stories, and I hope you read a lot of her stories. They are brilliant. Her insights into life are amazing. But this is a story I'd never heard from her because it's about not her patients, but herself. When she was 13. When she was 13, she grew up in a kind of middle-class household. She said it was early December, not long after where we are right now, and she said her father lost his job. And she said it was pretty devastating. They plummeted financially. And he immediately declared and took out bankruptcy so he could protect the few assets they had and protect their house, so they weren't homeless. Christmas was coming, and it was going to be tougher. And she didn't have to be told twice. She understood it. So she and her parents, this is really great, she and her parents made an agreement that they were going to have a good Christmas. And yes, they didn't have the money they'd had before, but they were going to do something special this year. They were going to make presents for each other. No, that was the rule. You had to make presents for each other. And her dad said, you know, we've got about 2.5 weeks. We better get busy. Well, Naomi went to work. She was 13. She had learned to knit. And so she said she spent all day, all night knitting this powerfully wonderful, beautiful scarf for her father that she said he kept for the rest of his life. And she didn't know what to do for Mom, but she got a book about jewelry, got some copper wiring, got some trinkets and some things. And she said she actually made this really beautiful, attractive bracelet for her mother that her mother prized. And they did the same for each other and for her. Well, Christmas was more modest, but she said, you know, they got to Christmas morning and actually it felt normal. It felt great because they'd really downsized in their expectations, but they'd also upsized each other. They made each other the focus. So Christmas morning came, they got about their normal ritual, got up early, turned on the lights, put on Christmas music, cooked a big breakfast together, afterwards went in the living room, and then started sharing the presents they had made. And she said it was wonderful. She said when they got through, she kind of noticed her dad looking at her, and she said, what? He said, well, look, there's one more. Well, she looked down, there was a velvet box still under the tree. And she thought, that looks like something from the store. And she looked at him, she said, what? He said, it's for you. He said, it's our gift. He said, you open it. So she took the box, opened it, and inside were 2 beautiful earrings, expensive, 24 karat, gold. And she looked and she said, what? He said, they're yours. Go put them on. So she took them, ran in the bathroom, put them on, and she said they were exquisite. They were stunning, and she looked pretty good in them. But the more she looked, you know, she stood there, and kind of this joy turned back to something else that had been right at the edge of their kind of last few weeks. She thought about it. She said, gosh, this doesn't seem right. And then it touched the fear she felt about their free fall and their finances. And then her mind started flying. Remember, she is 13. Gosh, I wonder what part of this is mine. You know, if I were a better person, you know, I'm not really pretty. I'm not really smart. This is probably some of me. She just went on and on until she worked herself into a crying fit. So she leaves the room elated and comes back 2 minutes later crying her eyes out. Her parents just sat there. They just sat there. And then finally, that crying turned into anger, and she said, Dad, how could you do this? You shouldn't have bought these. I'm too ugly to wear them. I don't need them. We don't have this money. We can't afford them. Why did you do this? Her dad didn't say a word. And she stood there crying. Finally, he got up and he went over to her and he put his big arms around her and pulled her tight. He said, Naomi, I know, sweetheart. I do know. I know we can't afford them. But you know, I know too that you're struggling with who you are, and I know you feel like you're not attractive now and they don't look good on you. I know all of that. But your mom and I bought them for you for the future, not for today. We bought them for the future when one day when you put them on, you will look great. And they will suit you perfectly. Naomi says today, as a practicing physician, she wears those earrings periodically. But mostly she keeps that velvet box in the top drawer of her desk in her office. And she says, you know, when I'm down a little bit, when I'm overwhelmed, when I haven't found the hope and inspiration I need to give my patients, she said, I open that box and I remember what my father taught me. There is always a future. There is always a future for every one of us. She said, what a gift. You see, I think that's what today's about. When we light this first candle and plunge our way into Advent, and yeah, we're getting ready for Christmas too, we are reminded that there is a future calling every one of us. God has a future for you in mind and for me. And it's not going to fix everything and make it all perfect. That's not even the point. The point is to have hope. That we are alert and alive to the possibility of hope in each of us and the people around us. Well, again, I guess you've noticed that Christmas is already cranking. I've seen the commercials and the decorations, and man, they're cranking the music. I thought, wow. And I'm still trying to catch up a little bit. And it's made me think about what's going on that we keep backing up from the 25th to work our way back a little bit. What's actually happening? Why are we doing that? And you know why? Because we need it. People need Christmas. Did we miss it? They need hope. They need joy. And maybe the more we need it, who knows? Maybe we'll start in September. I don't know. Doesn't bother me. Crank it away. But you know, that is a powerful thing to think about it. We do need it. We need the hope that this season brings us. We need the Advent that our preparation brings us. You know, we picked a theme for all of us this first week of Advent. I hope you'll take it away and put it in your pocket. It's called Seek. Seek. And you know that old hymn. Seek ye first. It goes like, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all of these things will be added unto you. Alleluia, alleluia. You see, we are asking ourselves to seek, to never not be seeking that presence of God, to not ever be without that preparation, that being ready. Get awake, get alert, in other words. Get ready for it. Stay ready for life. And I hope when you can't, somebody near you will help you. That's what we're here for with each other. And that's what Advent reminds us. Why we bothered to do this enterprise of church and community anyway. And so we're here for each other, through thick and through thin. You know, to help each other remember, to follow life. See that you matter. Every one of you matters. Remember that you have love and relationships. Lean into them. Strengthen them. Enjoy the successes. Acknowledge the failures and learn from them. But live. Doggone, live fully. Christmas is coming. I promise. Amen.